Okay, on the second page, not a geometry review, of our review for chapter 6 is all about multiplication. There's three different types of multiplication we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the traditional multiplication, but then a couple other methods that were highlighted in the textbook. There will be typical traditional multiplication question on the test, and there'll be one array question and one lattice question, and we'll talk about what those things are quickly. First of all, of course, in the traditional multiplication, we start and we multiply the bottom numbers by the top numbers. So 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 1, it's really 1 times 10, 1 times 1 is also 1, so that's 12. Now, when I start the second row, typically I put a 0 in here just to move the numbers over because I'm really multiplying 20 times these numbers, not 2 times these numbers. You can even leave that blank, but at this point, if you put a 0 in there, kind of means that the rest of the numbers are going to fall in the right spot. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 1, 2 times 1, of course, is 2. Then I add that up, 2, 5, 2. And that is the traditional multiplication. This is what a grade 5 question will look like. This is what a grade 6 question will look like. Typically, the grade 6 are always, they do, instead of doing a 2 by 2, maybe they'll do 2 by 3 or 2 by 4 in terms of the multiplication. One other multiplication that we also worked on was the array method. In the array method, you kind of break down the numbers into smaller parts, and you multiply those smaller parts together, and then you add it all up. And we did this with base 10 blocks before. So for example, here's where the 12 is. 12 is really a 10 and 2 1s. Here's where the 21 is, 2 10s and a single 1. And then what you do is you multiply in the grid the different parts that go together. So for example, this is 10 times 10, that's 100. Another 10 times 10, that's another 100. 10 times 1 is a 10. 1 times 10 is a 10. 1 times 10 is a 10. 1 times 1 is 1. And again, the bottom row is going to be the same as that one, a 10. 1 times 10 is 10. 1 times 10 is 10. And 1 times 1 is 1. And then you add it all together. When I add it all together, I've got 2 hundreds. And I've got 5 50s. And finally 2 1s, so 252. That's another way of doing it. There will be one array question on the test. And finally, we get to this lattice question. Lattice is probably, its first glance, it's the most confusing. But when you set it up and know how to do it, it's fairly easy to do. The way you start with lattice is you figure out lattice is kind of, you need to start with a grid at some point. And we have a question that is a 3 by 2 question, 3 numbers by 2 numbers. So your grid has to be 3 by 2. So here we go. Here is a 3 by 2 grid. So 468 times 56. Now, in each box, you need to make a diagonal. And what happens is the top of the diagonal is where the 10s goes, and the bottom is where the 1s go. So here we go. Let's multiply 6 times 8 is 48. So 48. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 4 is 24. Now we go to the top. 5 times 8 is 40. 5 times 6 is 30. 5 times 4 is 20. Okay, so now what we do is when we extend this down and we start adding up, this is where the 1s are. All these numbers fell into the 10s category. All these numbers fell into the hundreds, the thousands, and the 10,000s. So when I add down on an angle, I get 8. 0 plus 4 plus 6 is 10. So I get a 0, and then I stick a 1 up here to carry the 1. So now 1 plus 4 is 5, plus 3 is 8, plus 2 plus 12. I hope I did that right. I add 1 more up there, so 1 plus 3 is 4. Plus 2 is 6. And there we are. So this answer ends up being 26,208. Presuming I didn't make any mistakes, that's how you do the lattice method of multiplication. There will be one question on the test on using the lattice multiplication. Now the reason why these are shown is just kind of to try to develop a deeper understanding of what multiplication is. Traditionally, we end up moving towards the traditional method and staying there most of our lives. But this is just kind of giving the kids a deeper understanding, hopefully, of what multiplication is, how it works. Anyways, that's page 2.